Great day, attractive thinker and visual encouragers. Dr. Toni Hatton here, your identity coach and get to the root specialist. So delighted to be back with you for another episode of Beyond the Break. Give yourself a fighting chance. Click that like button, keep leaving those comments, click that share button, and subscribe to our YouTube channel because you do not want to miss these episodes that are breaking chains and giving clarity and setting people free and walking them through the process of a break so that they don't lose themselves in the process and they come out greater. Welcome, my co-host Tichet Bradshaw, to another episode of Beyond the Break. Give yourself a fighting chance.
Happy Mindset Monday, everybody. We made it. We made it with power. We get to do what we never did, go where we've never gone, and have all that we deserve to have, plus some healing. It's such a great day to be alive.
Yes, it is. And I'm delighted. We're always excited to be back here with you with another message to really support you through these breaks, be it a heartbreak or a break in a success. We always have to stay on top of our game, our mental game, using our mental tools and reminding our mind so that we can progress through any type of life circumstance or whatever it is that we have to encounter in our lives so that we stay in attractive thinking mode. Today, we're going to be talking about all of that pain is not yours. I want to shine the light on this topic for us because a lot of times we can endure certain things in life, meaning we go through life experiences, but the how we feel and how we handle it as a result. Sometimes we can be I call it self-imposed pain. Sometimes all of that pain didn't come from the circumstance. A lot of times it came from how we viewed the circumstance, how we think about ourselves, the shoulda, coulda, woulda, experience that we go through. So we're inflicting unnecessary pain and weight to the situation that it does not even call for that. And we can lighten our load. I mean, just the thought, when you think about going through a heartbreak, the thought of lightening a load, it doesn't even cross your mind. You're like, how can I lighten this load as painful as this is? Or, how much this hurts? Or, especially if you're into the shoulda, coulda, woulda, because your mind starts going back and forth with, if I had done this, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Or if I had said this, or if I hadn't allowed that, or if I had, just did something different. A lot of that weight and pain is added to what we encounter as a result of the situation that we're going through. So Tichet, talk to us about all of that pain is not yours.
Absolutely. So the thing that I've learned in my study of getting out of depression, and I was once in depression really bad for over a decade. And in order for me to break free, I had to self-assess. Do some real assessment, do some real researching. I had to research through different books, research in myself, research in my spirit. And one of the things that I found was that a lot of my misery, a lot of my pain was through the unbalancing of the ego. And we need ego. Let me be clear about that. We do need ego because ego is what keeps us moving forward. Ego is what helps us to not stay stale, stuck, and stagnant. Ego, when it is imbalanced and used properly, can be a good thing. But when it's not in balance, it can cause misery in places you don't even know, such as carrying pain that is not yours. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for instance, ego is judgment. It judges you, it judges the other person, but that judgment comes with an energy. It comes with a toxic type of energy. And if we don't pay attention, that energy can become stronger and stronger and cause pain that you don't even know the root of. Also, ego wants to be accepted. So with ego accepted, with ego wanting to have acceptance, it will tell you that you're not good enough if you don't look like everybody else, or it'll tell you you're not pretty if you don't have what society says is accepted. So when a person comes to you and they say something to you like you think you cute or you think you all that or and all of that stuff, they are trying to inflict pain because they are intimidated. That does not mean that you are intimidating. That's them operating out of balance in their own ego and then putting that energy onto you. And then we end up carrying that ego because nobody taught us that it's okay to think that it's okay to think better. It's okay to be cute. It's okay to be successful. It's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be different, and so you carry around the expectations of other people. You carry around the judgment of other people. You carry around the trying to be accepted. So you try to be a little more like everybody else. And then when you're not like everybody else, you feel rebellious. That too can cause a little pain than normal. But when someone comes to you and they inflict those certain words of you, rather they call you out your name, rather they say something to you that is harmful or hurtful, those words come from an ego out of balance for them, which is in a toxic state, right? A lot of things when you use it out of balance is toxic. Even certain foods, if you overdo certain foods, overdo certain things, it can become toxic. Even some relationships, when it's overdone, sometimes it can become toxic. Things have to have balance. In order for anything to stand, including you, it has to have balance. So everything, there's always two sides to a coin. There's always a positive, there's always a negative, right? But the negative sometimes enhances the positive and vice versa, right? But when they're out of balance and you're focusing so much on the negative when the positive is also being offered, you tend to cause yourself pain that you don't have to. A lot of people out here don't know that they don't have to feel, those pain. They don't have to carry that pain. They don't have to accept that pain. Just because somebody offered pain to you does not mean you have to accept it. And sometimes some of the pain you're carrying could be generational misery, generational knowledge, generational habits that was sent down to you that you just didn't agree with. Your spirit could not get used to doing those generational things because something in your spirit say, hey, we should be free from that. We should be further than that. We should be doing more. If something in you is doing more and everybody else is trying to hold you back, you have to question, is it you or them? And a lot of times it's not you, it's them. It's because you wanting more is making them seem like they want less. It's making them have to look in the mirror and see that they settled for less. Everybody can't fit in the same category because we're not all the same. All of us are unique. So why are we trying to fit a standard? Why are we trying to fit ourselves in a box when we're so much more than a box? And to me, I say the box is a perimeter of a standard way of thinking. We have to be out of the box and out of our mind in order to live freedom and have complete total balance between spirit and ego in order for us to stand and be liberated from the things that caused us pain and misery. We don't have to walk through this life with pain. And once I've recognized that, I started doing the work. Now, some people who are in pain, they feel like that this is what it is, and I just have to deal with it. That's all. That's what they say to themselves. I just have to deal with it. And that's because they have a hopeless thought or a hopeless mindset when it comes to deliverance. They don't feel like deliverance is there. But believe it or not, some people don't feel like they deserve deliverance because they didn't see somebody else get delivered, or their mom didn't get delivered, or they don't see deliverance in sight. They feel like they never seen deliverance, so why would they be any different? People have many reasons why they feel like they can't get deliverance or they can't get healing. But I say this now, healing is always a possibility. Doing better, having better, being better is always offered. we have to be willing to put the work in order to allow ourselves to be free. Because being free is not easy. It definitely cost us some things. It was definitely a sacrifice to be free and be happy. You would think being free and being happy, like, oh, I made it, I did it, I got it. But you don't realize the fight that you have to go through in order to get free, and the fight you have to go through in order to stay free. You know what I mean? You never think of that because we're so busy thinking about the fight to getting free, or just the fight of just trying to stay afloat. Some of us is not even thinking about being free or being happy. We just want to stay alive. We just want to be able to stay with our head above water. You know what I mean? But life is so much more than that. Life is offering so much more than what you see and what you think. And you have to be willing to go outside of the box and outside of your mind, in order to see something you never saw, do something you never did, and have something you never had, because the limitations for you is not just in your mind. Those You can live life beyond those limitations. When you live based on just what you know, you are limiting yourself to a small standard, to a small way of living. Life is so grand out here. There's so much to learn and so much to do, so much to see, so much to have, so much to be, and so much growth that is being offered. But if we focus on a pain that we've accepted, and I mean accept it, because every pain that was inflicted on us don't mean we have to accept it. You know what I mean? Just because people don't like us or have not accepted us, or maybe you had a business that didn't go so well, you don't have to accept the pain of it. Take that as a lesson and build on that. Use those as bricks and build brick by brick by brick. I heard somebody say, every brick they thrown at me, I use those bricks to build an empire. And you need to be able to allow yourself to be free enough to take what's thrown at you and allow it to be your footstool so that you can get to a higher place. Back to you, Dr. Toni.
So fantastic and amazing. Tichet, tell us, what is ego? Because while you're talking, I'm looking at maybe some similarities between, and I can see how our audience can still be waffling back and forth between ego and the subconscious mind, because you're talking about some entities here, some beings, so to speak. That's what I'm hearing when you talk. So how is ego the subconscious mind? And if not, how are they different?
So to me, one of the things I learned, ego is pride. Ego it and let me give you a real definition before I go in what I know. An inflated feeling of pride in your superiority of others. It's also the conscious and permanent subject of all physical experiences, whether held to be directly known or the product of reflective thought. So to me, I felt like ego had a lot to do with the pride. It had a lot to do with the carnal experiences that we have, like the emotions that we deal with when it comes to carnal experiences. The ego is basically the self, like the self, not in the spirit self. There's two sides of the self, right? The ego is the self, the thinking self. It's that self that tells you, you're not better, but you want to be better. It's that self that it's our inner critic too. Our ego is our biggest critic, right? Because our ego want to make sure everything is number one, everything is the best, everything. It does not want to be in shame. It is responsible for the shame that we feel. Like if we're different than everybody else, it is responsible for the shame. Another thing is our ego is also self-esteem. And now the ego, when it's our self-esteem, when our ego is low self-esteem, that's ego out of balance as well. Our self-esteem has everything to do with how we see ourselves. It's our perspective. It's the way that we view a thing. Whether we view it positive or negative, a lot of that perception comes from our ego. So when somebody says something to you, and you start to feel ashamed for being that person, that's your ego accepting their word over your own. That's your ego saying, okay, their word is more powerful to me than my own word. Yes, I think I'm great, but then they think I think I'm great. So I'm going to accept that over them. So it allows you to, the ego out of balance allows you to kind of restrict yourself or constrict yourself and make yourself small because it desires to be great. Now, I want to read something that I wrote that I wanted to share with everybody concerning ego. I want to share with you some of the things that I wrote about ego. Okay. I said, ego judges. It judges you as a person, your beliefs and actions. It also judges other people the same way and assume others' judgment of you. So it's everything you do, say, think, and be is always in judgment, in competition, in comparison. It's always like, is this good enough? Is it not good enough? It's always in judgment. I wouldn't do that. Well, if you did that, I don't know why you would do that. So it would judge you, but then will also turn around and make you judge others and feel like and project that others are judging you when sometimes that's not even the case. Some people are not even thinking about some of the things we are embarrassed about. You ever sit there in your bed and have a memory of something 5 years ago and want to hide under the covers? What is that? Nobody else is thinking about that, but you have that memory affect you for the entire day and you start feeling shame for being that person once. But we have to remember that during that time, we did the best that we could with what we knew, right? I like to assume that most of us have done that. We did the best that we could with what we knew at that particular time. So judging ourselves for not making the best decision or making that mistake or feeling that regret, all that comes from an ego bruising. Ego is so easily bruised. And when it's bruised, it sends out toxicity. It cannot bring in positivity if it's bruised. And so a lot of our standards and stuff in this world is because ego is bruised. Another thing I said is ego is fear. It feels like it has to defend, but ends up offending because it believes it needs that out of balance type of overprotection. So, and then it says, I said, it plays on insecurities by constantly keeping worst case or no case scenarios, playing at the forefront of our minds, which infect our hearts. It gives toxicness to our heart. So what I meant by that is a lot of times ego will tell you you have to defend yourself against a person who's not even trying to harm you. So you know how you have people that are jealous of you, people who don't have your best interests at heart. You have them in your face feeling like they have to be defensive towards you, and you're not trying to offend them, you're trying to help them. That's their ego out of balance, and they're projecting that onto you. So ego will project as well. It will allow you to believe that another person is feeling, thinking, and doing what you are feeling, thinking, and doing. And sometimes that's just not the case. Sometimes we just have to give a moment a chance. Does that mean you trust everybody? No. Trust is earned, not given, right? But everybody's not thinking and doing and saying and believing the way that you are. So you have to read the spirit for the moment that it's in. So when you come across a person, they can be speaking nice, but their spirit, something does not match. You don't trust that. You trust your spirit that's saying something does not match. And then you say, something told me that I shouldn't have been dealing with them. Something said, don't go over there. You know, that something said is something great. That is your spirit telling you and reminding you, hey, you might not want to deal with that because this can have certain circumstances or certain effects on you. You know, it's not just, oh, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe I'm just, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. That's ego. Say, maybe I'm wrong. Always make your own thoughts small. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's me. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's not. And then I said, it plays on insecurities by constantly keeping the worst case or no case scenario. Now, that one was a big one. How many times, if you ever gone through depression, how many times did you play that story over and over and over again in your mind? Now, that situation happened. Let's say you had a situation that happened. Let's say a breakup, or you and a friend had a fight. Let's just use something like that, right? You and a friend had a fight, and that friend said something. That friend said something like, you're never going to succeed anyway. You go home, you'll know you accepted those words, because to me, some words have more power once it's accepted, right? You have to literally accept it for it to take effect in your life. So that person will say, you're never going to be successful anyway. You go home at the end of the night, you're playing that scene over and over again, and all you hear is, you're never going to be successful, you're never going to be successful, you're never going to be successful, you're never going to be successful. And then what happens is the ego, when it comes out of balance, will start to listen to that and say that I'm not accepted. And when it says I'm not accepted, you'll start trying to prove them wrong, and you'll start trying to defend yourself against something that didn't even need defense. Where did that come from? That came out of them, not you. That came out of the jealousy for them. That came out of them not wanting to see you succeed. That had nothing to do with you being able to succeed. Their words are not true unless you allow it to penetrate and allow it to be true in your life. And then I said, ego compares and competes. It thinks it has to always beat or outshine or outlive itself and everyone else in a negative, out of balance sort of way. It never thinks it can measure up with society. It thinks it is never enough. It is never satisfied or content, which leads to greed. First of all, it is never satisfied. This is how greed comes up. So no matter what you get, it's going to always need more and more and more. Now, sometimes wanting more is a good thing. This is why you need ego, because we should want more for ourselves. But when it's out of balance, you want it so much that it becomes toxic. You want it until it becomes greed, and it starts giving off negative energy. It starts hurting people. It starts hurting yourself. There should be a balance to everything, including, like, you can't even overdrink water, or you'll drown internally. You know what I mean? Everything has to have a balance, right? Even the good things have to have a balance. But it's always comparing and competing. It have you look at another person. Ego out of balance will have you look at another person and go, she thinks she cute. You thought she was cute. The person wasn't even thinking about that. The person is cute. Yes, we all agree, but you thought she was cute. That's where it came from. But why was that a problem for you? That was their ego out of balance. So I'm not going to accept that as as a problem, because I'm not sitting there regretting the way I look. I'm not going to compare myself. If I'm an apple and there's an orange, I'm not going to be upset about being an apple because I don't look like an orange. And that's the problem. A lot of people are in pain because they're an apple trying to be an orange. You're not meant to do what an orange do, be what an orange is, or have the effects an orange have. You are an apple. So it's best to take your apple and your apple seed and make it count for what it is, right? So it always compares and competes. Ego is always in a race. It has to be the first to do everything, right? Against time, against people, against any task at hand, against itself and the standards set by society and other authoritative, egotistical decision-making minds. It has to be first. It has to be, it don't matter who it got to step on. It'll step on anybody just to be the first one to say, I made it there. You can tell the ego is out of balance when you're in a race with people and somebody falls and you keep going just to get the ribbon or the reward or the trophy, and you didn't help your brother who just broke his leg. Now y'all in this race together. Y'all not racing against each other. And that's the thing. Ego has us believing we're racing against each other and not with each other. We're not going against each other. That's why we should be cheering on each other instead of taking each other down, because my successes is not going against yours. My successes is going with yours. I'm sharing my success with you. Share your success with me. And if you don't have a success to share with me, let's work on a success that you want to have happen, not what I want for you to happen. And so it has a lot that it is responsible for. Ego desires approval. It needs approval for everything. It no matter how it comes, it don't matter how it comes, it needs approval, even if it has to lie, right? It craves attention, even if it's negative attention. It desires to take credit any chance it gets for that approval. Narcissism is ego way out of balance, because it desires approval, rather it has to lie to get it. It'll tell you, yes, I met so-and-so and I did this. It'll lie when the truth will do. It's all, again, trying to get you to accept something they may have thought, said, or think. Narcissistic people, they like to be seen as the greatest of all things. Narcissistic people like to brag about people that they know. They like to name drop. They want to make sure their image is everything to an ego person. Image is everything. It don't matter what's going on behind the scenes. Image is everything. As long as their image is not tarnished, they're willing to deal with whatever's going on in the background. It could be a complete mess back there, but as long as the face of it is okay. This is why you have some abusive people who won't punch you in the face, but they'll beat the crap out your back. This is ego out of balance. That is not yours to carry. You don't have to feed into those egotistical people. They have to fix that. You cannot change an egotistical person. All of us get with this person. Well, if I just help them, if I just change them, you can't change an egotistical person. They have to want that. They have to want that balance. You can't even want that for them. They have to want that balance for them. And also it'll also take credit for everything except when it's time to take credit over something that was a failed attempt. So they'll say, yes, I did that. I put that. The self, right? I did that. I want credit for this, that, and the other. But when something go wrong, I had nothing to do with it. I didn't do that. That's not my fault. Don't put that on me. Y'all did this and y'all did that. You know what I mean? Like, it will never take credit. It would never take credit for what's wrong. It'll always take credit for everything that's right. Ego is about the self. It can be destructive, but also constructive. Ego also has its positive effects. Also, it keeps you moving. It helps with goal setting and getting tasks done. It protects positive and induces self-care in a positive way. So it can also protect you, because ego will tell you that person doesn't have your best interests at heart. So that kind of protection, we need to be protected. We don't want to walk out here naive, believing everybody has our back. We don't want to be open and let anybody handle our time, our energy, and who we are and our heart. So we definitely need to have protective, and we definitely need to have self-care. So we can't lack self-care. So it's important to have it, but not be so over egotistical that it's causing pain on yourself, the people. When a person is over egotistical and narcissistic, when they're hurting you, they're hurting themselves even more. And that's the thing most people don't realize, is that in order to hurt somebody, it has to come from a hurt place. It has to come from another place where they're not even seeing. Because if you're positive and happy, how can you give out toxic if you're not toxic? How can you give out what you're not? I will never give you an orange peel if I'm an apple. It's impossible to do that. Also, it blocks humility when out of balance. It hides faults. It refuses to take responsibility or ownership of thoughts, words, or deeds associated with it. Each negative out of balance ego part also has a positive imbalance opposite effect. So also the biggest fear for ego is loss. It's loss. It does not like to lose nothing. A race, nothing. It cannot handle losing a race. When somebody offends you, that is ego bruising. But when you know who you are, you don't accept what anybody says to you. So that's one of the things that I wrote concerning ego, and that was from my research on it. And I didn't realize I was really egotistical. And then I had to work on. I thought for a minute that I had to get rid of my ego, but that turns out that that's not what I wanted either, because then I end up being stale a little bit. I was good, I was peaceful, but I wasn't effective. So we need ego to also be effective. So we don't get rid of it. It needs to be balanced. Back to you, Dr. Toni.
Wow, Tichet, you really, really expressed that so well. Attractive thinkers, visual encouragers, I trust that you really have a better understanding of what ego is, and also understanding that all of that pain is not yours. This should lighten the load. This should really lighten the load. When you understand that what you're feeling is not all coming from you, that's a game changer. Some of the things that I got from what you were saying to Shet was ego is has to do with self-esteem, projecting, self-importance, self-image. And this one right here really stands out even more to me, being the central reference point. Ego being the central reference point. When you look out into the world, or you're speaking about experiences or encounters and things like that with people, ego being your comments are self-centered, meaning they have nothing to do really with the other person. You're projecting how you really feel on that person. I had that experience one time, and it was with a family member, and it was all, done in joking and playing. But we were on our way to church one Sunday. This was years ago, prior to the pandemic. And we were all walking in as a family. And before we got to the door, one of my family members said, "You think you cute." Now they were behind me. We're all dressed up, for Sunday service. And I turned around and looked at them. I said, "No, you think I'm cute." And we all started laughing. But that's usually how it happens when someone says something to you. They're projecting how they feel and thinking that you feel the same way. They're thinking that how they feel is what you're thinking.
Yes.
And that is so weird to think that. I mean, and it's an awakening to understand, like, wait a minute, just because I'm thinking it doesn't mean the other person's thinking it, or just because I'm feeling it doesn't mean that they're feeling it. Like, you could be in an event and you say, "Oh, you meant to step on my foot," or "You meant to take the last plate," or "You knew I was coming and you took the napkin before I could get it." I mean, little things like that. But these are also instances where ego is at play, because that other person may not have had that on their mind at all, but because you got this self-centered thing going on, meaning everything has to be about you, then you begin to project how you feel, and you're so forceful with it, or so determined and confident with it, you're thinking that the other person feels like you feel as well. And I know how that feels, and it's so many facets of this ego thing. And the way you were talking about it, it's like, okay, this is it, the ego is its whole own entity. It's
Yes.
totally separate from the other things that we go through, because you mentioned narcissism and I mentioned subconscious mind. So we got all of this going on inside of us. An attractive thinker, visual encourager, I trust that you now understand everything that's going on inside of you is not just you, it's not just yours, because we could be focusing on one area that we think this experience is coming from, and you have all of these other areas in your life that are going unaddressed. And I've done this down through the years through personal growth and development. I could be focusing so much on all of my energy in one area, trying to perfect that area, not understanding that that area is now okay. It's these other dudes over here that are making it appear that I haven't done my work. You see what I'm saying? So I hope that you guys are getting this, that you understand that all of that pain that you're experiencing is not even yours. Tisha, give us some closing remarks and let the visual encouragers and attractive thinkers know how they can get in touch with you, the visual encourager.
Absolutely. Understanding that all of that pain is not yours, taking the time out to assess how to pluck off the feathers that are not yours, how to pluck off somebody else's ego, how to pluck off other people's projected pain from yours, how to pluck off other habits that are not yours, mindsets that are not yours, thinkings that are not yours, different actions and experiences that are not even yours. Yes, it is possible to carry other people's experiences, especially if you're an empath. You know, some of that stuff is not even yours. The depression, I realized that a lot of that depression, because I am an empath, a lot of the depression that I was experiencing was not mine. It was me picking up other people's energy. And once I understood that, and I did the work, and I understand how to separate the two, number one, I had to identify the two. Once I did that, then I was able to know what to accept and what not to accept. It is okay to be happy. It is okay to be great. It is okay to be free. And definitely, most importantly, it is okay to be you. So I just want to leave you guys with that. And that word of encouragement. And you can go to my website for more information at www.visualencouragement.com. We provide mental support for movers and shakers, trailblazers, pathfinders, and groundbreakers, visionaries who desire to move mountains but need help lifting the heaviness so that you can create a new vision for yourself. Go to my contact us page, put in your information. Let me know how I can uplift you, enlighten you, and encourage you so that you can live a life as yourself beyond the break. Again, www.visualencouragement.com. I'll see you soon.
Awesome. Attractive thinkers, visual encouragers. I want you to follow those instructions, visit Tichet's website, get the resources and the tools that you need, because you got to stay awake, you got to stay sharp, you got to stay clear, you have to stay free, you have to stay healed. You know, no matter what life, you know, whatever you're going through in life, there's a posture that has to be consistent in order for you to survive that and thrive and come out, you know, on top as a visual encourager should, and an attractive thinker. Dr. Toni Hatton here, your identity coach, and get to the root specialist at theattractivethinker.guru. Visit our website. There are 5 videos that I want you to have. You're going to receive 1 video each day in your email, but you have to put your information in the box on the page. Turning your problems into your solutions. These are powerful resources. You'd be surprised at what's really holding you back when you're trying to move forward and you feel like you've let go of everything already. So visit our website, get your resources, and remember, we always say, our life's work, that's to make your life better. It is not what you're going through, it's how you're doing it. Think attractively. We'll see you soon.